Okay, so here we found a really nice kind of nature spot to show you the effects of using aperture priority, where you're in control of the iris or the aperture, and the effect it has on a shutter speed. Now, to illustrate this, what I'm going to do is one of those kind of Milky waterfall shots, where the shutter's open for so long, the water just flows and flows and creates a kind of milky image on the sensor. Now, to do this, I've put the camera to aperture priority and I've shut it right down as far as it'll go. And with this lens, that is at f/22, so it's a very small iris, very small aperture. And it's giving me, for this particular setting, a shutter speed of around 1 second. And another way to actually get the shutter speed as low as possible, or as slow as possible, is I've also put a polarizing filter on the front, which doesn't affect the colours of the image, or it might make them a bit more saturated, but it'll just darken the image as well, so it'll allow a slightly longer shutter speed. So coupled with a very small aperture and a polarizing filter, and I've also gone to ISO 50, which has made the sensor a lot less sensitive, that's all giving me quite a slow shutter speed, which I'm hoping is going to allow the water to kind of blend in with to give it the kind of milky effect. So let's just take one photo quickly. If we just frame it up here, you can see if I frame in and out and zoom in and out, it's good to try and find a good angle to get the shot. Now, I haven't got the cable release with me today, so I'm actually going to use self-timer. It's on 2 seconds. So if I just take that, 1.6 seconds, and there it goes. That's the first shot. And you can see with that image, the water is fairly milky. If we zoom into that, you're seeing that we've got quite a nice effect there, so I'm quite happy with that. And also I'm shooting raw at the moment, so I can actually play with this a bit more later on in Photoshop and bring out some of the details in the water. Let's just take another shot. 1.3 seconds. Self-timer's going. If I really wanted to keep this still, I'd use mirror lockup, but I'm not at the moment because it should be okay. And let's just take another shot zoomed right out so that I can get all of those beautiful leaves in. I don't want the sky in at all. I just want all the green and just the water so that we're keeping the exposure good. That's 1.6 seconds. Here we go, so another shot. And again, it's quite nice, but I'm not getting the length of shutter speed that I want. 1.6 seconds isn't really very much. So what I'm going to do now is put on the 105mm Sigma lens with an aperture that actually goes down to about f/45. So I'll just change that lens now and take another shot and see how slow a shutter speed I can get. Right, so now I've got the Sigma 105mm macro lens on. I'm not using the macro, obviously, I'm just using it to actually get the aperture down as low as possible. And I've gone down to a f/45 aperture, which is tiny. It's the smallest hole it'll go to, and it may cause a little bit of distortion on the images, but we're going to take a couple at f/45, and the reading I'm getting now is actually 3.2 seconds. So let's try that now and take one at 3.2 seconds and see how we get on. 2 second timer. 1, 2, 3, there we go. And now, because we've got double the length of the shutter, we're now at 3.2 seconds. The water's a lot more milky and it's a lot more kind of flowing, whereas the leaves are dead sharp. So by shutting the aperture down even more, we're closing out that light, but I haven't actually got a polarizing filter on here, so I'm not able to close it down even more. If I actually had a polarizing filter that would fit this, I may be able to reduce that by 1 or 2 more stops and maybe get a 5 or 6 second exposure. But this just kind of illustrates how you can use aperture priority to your advantage to get this kind of shot where you've got that milky effect from the water. If you haven't got a polarizing filter, if you can't go to ISO 50, and if you haven't got a lens that stops right down, the only other time of day or the only other time you can do this kind of shot is either early morning when there's very little light about, or late evening when you've again got very little light, and you should then get a really long shutter speed to enable this kind of shot. So I hope that helps, and we'll see you on the next video.